Hello, everybody, and welcome. I'm here with Colleen,
Hello.
and we're actually going to be doing something a little different today. Um, I've been hearing about this for a little while, and so I've been kind of wanting to try it and see how it goes, as far as our podcast. And we don't have a guest today; it's just Colleen and I are, and so we're going to take questions today. I think we're just going to focus on Reddit. And I'm going to talk a little bit about that because it was like too hard to pull all the resources from all of the different places. So what we're going to do is we're going to take questions from there, read them out, and then answer them in the way that we would maybe answer them. So we'll see how this goes. First of all, I will say that it's probably a little out of both Colleen and I's comfort zone. So, because
Yeah.
we have not talked about this beforehand, other than just the idea. I will say,
Well, like a half an hour ago.
yeah, right. I will say that we also, I've seen other podcasts that do this. And so it's definitely not like an original idea to do this. But I listen to a few of those and I see them on like TikTok and stuff like that. And I'm like, oh, that might be kind of fun to try it. So the other thing that's really interesting about it, because we're going to be on the Reiki subreddit. And the other thing that's really interesting about it that I was talking to Colleen before we started the recording is that it also can be somewhat triggering. So some of the answers that people get on there. And so I was like, the neat thing about this too is that you kind of have to like work through some of those emotions. And so while you're reading like the questions and stuff. So maybe some of that'll come up too, Colleen. I'm not sure. we did not,
I
I did
think
not
so.
spend a lot of time like diving deep into things. I pulled up things that I thought were interesting that we might be able to have some thoughts around. And um and so yeah, we're gonna try it. We're gonna see how it goes. It
I
should be
guess and
fun.
get your comments here on YouTube too.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's a
Yeah.
good point.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you're
Yeah.
watching this on YouTube, or I think there's
YouTube.
places on Spotify too that you can leave comments. You can certainly do that, your thoughts around it as well. First of all, I also want to say if you spend a lot of time, this is true for all social media, and many of us are in this place right now. But if you spend a lot of time on Reddit, remember to put the phone down and go out and touch grass for a little bit. Me too. I actually don't spend a lot of time on Reddit. I actually kind of dislike Reddit because I feel like I can get triggered and feel like a little negative around it. So I actually like I don't even have the app or anything like that. But I do go on to the Reiki subreddit sometimes just in case there's like a question that I feel called to answer that I feel like I could be helpful for somebody. So yeah, so I'm aware of it, but I don't spend a lot of time on it because it just affects me too much emotionally. So I'm not going to do it. So if
I would go so far as to say for myself, I'm a bit afraid of it.
yeah, yeah,
Like
it's
that's as you were talking, I was like, yeah, I'm actually a little bit afraid of Reddit.
well, the thing is
Yeah.
that I think it can be really helpful. Like if I'm deep
Yeah.
diving into a topic of like that I need other people's experiences on it, I think that it can be really helpful. So if I'm asking a question about my life or, some health stuff or things like that, obviously I take it with a grain of salt. I'm not taking it as like, fully fact, but other people's experiences within it can be helpful. So I do go on it for those reasons. Like I follow a gardening subreddit, I follow a snowboarding subreddit. There's some of those things that I follow that it can be helpful around. But at the same time, I only go on there when I have specific questions. And that's not for people that love it and all of that, that is not a
Oh, of course.
criticism, not a criticism, but also with all social media, make sure that you are putting the phone down sometimes and going and touching grass. So I just wanted to say
I go hug my tree.
exactly, exactly. Yeah, it's true for us too.
Yeah.
We remind each other of that sometimes of like, okay, I'm gonna just
Reiki, 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 Reiki,
put
Reiki.
that over there and go go stand outside for a second. So, all right. Well, I think let's go ahead and get into it.
Okay.
This is a brand new format for us, so I'm sure there's going to be a little fumbling and stumbling around it. All right. Let's start here with I had these tabs open and I just want to see. Okay. This, I think, is one of my favorite ones that I noticed today. Again, I didn't spend a lot of time. So this one is from 5 days ago because I liked this because it's very honest and transparent and authentic. So the question is for all Reiki practitioners and masters, are you always love and light and peace and everything? So here's the little discussion. I have done some attunements and the odd sending, but I don't really feel like a good person sometimes. I do help people, but sometimes, but hate people begging me for help and money all the time. Also, online, I am not always kind, but even end up being a little nasty. Does everyone always find it easy to be peaceful and calm all the time? As an empath, I have a different life to most. So before I get into any top comments or anything, Colleen.
Well, I would say what sums it up is when I was at the listening to the Dalai Lama at the Red Hot Chili Peppers concert and the Dalai Lama, and he said at that time, he said, "If you think I am so enlightened, you should ask my office staff." And so I thought that was so good because it did just take that pressure off. Like, I'm still human, you know? I mean, and now I'm 69. So truthfully, I'm just a lot calmer because I'm 69 also. But 30 years of Reiki energy to manage my life definitely has made a difference. But also, one of the biggest differences is that Reiki showed me that I'm here to be human and be human, and I am going to have a duality. I'm not enlightened yet, but I do prefer feeling more peaceful. So I do focus my attention on that and try to switch it if I can. But there is the but. There's all kinds of places where the but is in the moment, you know. Yeah.
Yeah. I would say, generally speaking, I consider myself, and this is like so annoying to say, I would generally consider myself, I try to make good choices and be a good person. I
Yes.
think even asking that question demonstrates that you probably are like a relatively good person. I think most people are. I think people are really hard on themselves for some of the things that we do that are not exactly like, you know, the nicest things in general. I would also say that there are people out there that aren't so nice, and we have a lot of public demonstration of that, right? As well. But I don't think like Reiki necessarily or spirituality necessarily automatically makes you like a good person, or a nice person. I would say if you're trolling and bullying people online, maybe that is something that you want to look at.
Like ask Reiki for some help.
Yeah, maybe
Little of
that
a
is
mental emotional symbol, maybe.
Yeah, maybe that is something that we want to look at for sure. As well. I think definitely nobody is a perfect person all the time. Like, like you said, like I catch myself, like I would say probably the places where I always seek improvement is gossiping. It's kind of easy to do in my circles, with people. And I don't think that that's a very good quality to have. It's not 100% of the time, but I catch myself in it. Like it's usually like in retrospect, like, oh man, I didn't like that I gossiped about another person or something like that. Or, so those are the things that I would say, I, we can all catch ourselves in those things. So
Can I
I don't,
add to that right there?
yeah, of course.
Okay, so gossiping was one of them that I decided I was going to work with Reiki because there was one point that I shared a story that was not mine to share, not just one point, but this one was like a really, boy, that was not my story to tell. And I felt so badly afterwards. Like I was like, oh my gosh, what was I thinking? I think I had had a margarita,
Yeah, that's
talking with girlfriends,
that's
and I was just like,
exactly the
well, and then
situation.
guess what? You
Exactly the
know,
situation I catch myself in.
yeah, it wasn't necessarily malicious. I mean, it obviously wasn't malicious, but it was not, it wasn't okay. Anyway, that is when I learned that I could use the distance symbol and go back to before I said the words and while I said the words and ask for it to heal it, ask it for it to help me. And that was a really big moment of training for me of how I could use Reiki to help when that happens. Because I'm still human.
I love that.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Go back and just help heal it, heal me, heal the person I told the story, any cords that happened. And the other thing that I asked Reiki to help with is that the people that I shared the story with, that they would not repeat it and that it would just dissipate the energy of the story and of the gossip.
that's great.
Yeah.
I love that. Well, and that's the thing is that like we we're all going to make mistakes. It's also about our reaction to it, right?
Yeah.
Like I think that most of us aim to be better people. I think most of us are trying to use this energy to continue to like raise our viewpoint of ourselves, raise our viewpoint of humanity, raise our actions to humanity. I think that that's like what most of us, whatever draws us to it and working on ourselves. I think so many of us that's also a part of our heart intention. So yeah, I love that and the anxiety that can come from that. I was like, oh, I did it again. I mean, I'm not
I
like
know.
terrible about it, but like, you get caught in these things. You get caught in
It's
these things.
life.
It is.
It's
It's
just being
humanity.
human too,
It is.
you know.
If you're finding yourselves having a hard time, like breaking a habit, just thinking about the example this person used and um, going online and not being very nice, don't go online. Like, those are some of the things that we can do. And I'm not saying, like, for me, I absolutely get triggered by things and can have the like urge to be a keyboard warrior and just and stuff. And so what I do in that time is I try to set my phone down and go touch grass, you know, with that. So, but it's each of our own journey. It's, because that might be the place where you are like, "Ooh, this is not very good actions of me." There's going to be places where I'm going to have different versions of that. You're going to have different versions of that. The Dalai Lama has different versions of that. And it really is, I think, when we're asking these questions and looking at it, those are the places that we are like, oh, all right, well, maybe I'm trying to look at this for a reason. Maybe it's being pointed out to me for a reason.
Yeah. The other thing, it's so interesting because remember yesterday we were teaching a master class and we did this really deep journey and in it I remembered that I had like a really specific, oh, this is what is happening in this journey, the healing I was receiving, and I couldn't remember when we came back. And I just remembered in this conversation was that I would stop judging myself. And that was, we were under the tree of life, and I was just receiving. And it was like this whole huge message that just came in and like releasing that for me. So, not me just making a decision, but the Reiki energy releasing some of the things of why do I do that? And so, then today, as we were talking, I don't even remember specifically about what we were talking about, but I was remembering too that I even thought, I just want to be the person I hope I am.
Yeah,
And, you never know. And through that, I learned that I can be the person I hope I am and still feel differently. So,
yeah,
you know,
that is a great
traffic,
point.
yeah, traffic is a easy one to use. It's such a simple example. We all get mad and triggered in traffic, or I do. And, so, I mean, suddenly you're just saying things that you wouldn't say, or, your own self-criticism, all of the above. And um, ultimately, even if this person who wrote this, is feeling that way, more than likely, you're probably a really good person. And you
Say that
probably have
again,
some,
Colleen. Sorry.
oh, kids.
Oh,
Don't. Anyway, it's probably if somebody is asking this question this way, you're probably already a pretty good person and just some habits you might want to
yeah.
address or not.
You're examining it. I agree.
Yeah,
Sometimes the actions are going to be different than actually how you feel inside. And that
yeah,
counts,
yeah,
that counts. Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
yeah. Because
So,
sometimes being nice isn't, or, we talk about the word being nice and we also talk about the word kindness, and sometimes kindness isn't nice. Sometimes saying the thing that needs to be said that's so uncomfortable to say
yeah,
needs to be said. So I think whoever this is, if they happen to hear this, it's such a personal question
yeah.
for you to ask yourself. Are you being
Yeah.
who you want to be?
And
Um,
normal. And like,
yeah, no,
I'm a parent of a very energetic child that I lose my temper. It's like, and so sometimes I also have to apologize. I think too, I think there's always times where we feel like maybe sometimes we don't, um, like, I think I question, like, am I a good person? Because I'm not like, saint-like for sure. So, um, yeah, I think that that is, but also I think that that's kind of a part of the process and the things that I strive to just become better every day.
I do have to add to it because I'm hearing it as we're talking that the other thing that's happening right now is that we're so distracted by the chaos and the difficulties and the global challenges, and that it's catching our attention. And what Robin and I have been talking about, what you and I have been talking about is, really letting our creativity emerge. And so maybe that's the other thing rather than thinking in terms of stopping, saying something mean on the internet to what, like what do you want to say? What is a creative thing to say that is helpful and not necessarily a reaction to something somebody has said?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that this is, I really appreciated this question because
Yeah.
it's also something that's not, we do talk about a lot of love and light. And so it's just like a really honest and vulnerable question that we isn't always talked about in spirituality, in Reiki and spirituality. So I really appreciated it. I want to just, the general consensus from the comments is no. So, um, So here's the other part of this is there's going to be things in the comments and stuff. I'm filtering them a bit. But also if the top comment says things that are like, a little uncomfortable for Colleen and I to say, I'm still going to like talk about them. So the top comment on this, and this subreddit's small, so there's not like a ton of upvotes and things like this, but the top comment on this is uh expletive no. So F word no. We are all still human. My Reiki master teacher is an insane conspiracy theorist and a bit of a bigot, but she still did her job well. No, I'm not in contact with her anymore. So that I'm not going to go through this next comment a whole lot, but the next comment is no, I am not, and I am not afraid to admit it. Those who are afraid to admit they experience the dark feelings that are not love or peace and insist that it's all love and light are spiritually bypassing themselves or others. So there's that one. And then the next one is, of course not. Emphatically no. Yes, it's true. Reiki practitioners curse, get drunk. Sometimes they use drugs, have fights, have to flex on people to show them who's boss. Just because we have taken Reiki training doesn't mean we stopped being human beings.
I
So,
like that one.
yeah. So anyway, the general consensus through all the comments are no, we all are still human, and especially if we've come into these practices from a very different life, and different life experiences that have created hardness or things that we have to do to get by and survive. And, there's all of these kinds of things that can come from traumatic backgrounds that have created a lot of things that maybe we don't love in the way that we act. And so there's all of these things that are a part of it that is um, a part of being human. So
Well, and I love with Reiki what you just said is that Reiki comes in and works anyway,
yeah,
wherever we are. And it doesn't really require us to, like, toe the line, be the person that, is, in fact, it's trying to teach us how to get to our own inner truth. So, move out of that level of always having to be a certain way to earn and deserve spirituality or connection because we're still human.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So
And we came
anyway,
here to be human.
we did come here to be human and learn our lessons.
Stupid lessons.
Stupid lessons. Uh, yeah, all right.
Um, Sometimes I feel like I say that so lightly when, there's some really like, yeah, everybody knows what I mean. We'll keep it lighthearted.
Yeah, yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think we're probably good on that one. We can go to the next one.
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
so.
yeah, really interesting. Brings up good conversations. So, and
Yeah,
also
I'm having fun.
all the things in the comments that maybe I don't agree with, which we're gonna get onto one of those, but I wanted to start a little bit more like straightforward first of like, no, I'm still human. So, okay. Um, all right, this one is a month old and it is I don't want spirits, good or bad. Is this still a path? And then I am a believer in energy work and the flow. I'm intrigued by Reiki, but I don't believe in angels or guides in the literal sense. I'm more in the abstract. I'm spiritual, but not religious. And all the talk of angel guides I've been reading makes me nervous. I grew up Catholic and I have a hard time when I read Reiki practitioners call upon angel/archangel guides. Um, I hope this makes sense. Open to energy flow, but spirits, not sure.
Well, do you want to start or you want me to start?
Starts off.
All right. Absolutely. You do not have to engage with spirit guides to work with Reiki. Reiki will take you to how it is all meaningful to you and meet you where you are. I happened to learn Reiki, and then Robyn, because she's my daughter, we learned Reiki through shamanic practices first, which is very much about spirit guides. And more than anything, for me, I don't know if the way I identify my spiritual guides and beings or who they really are, but I really like my belief system. I like that I have these beings I can engage with. I don't worship them. They're friends, they're colleagues, they're co-creators. And, if I'm walking through the forest, they're the trees and the spirits of the forest or of the waters. So it's just a way I like to perceive it. Um, Another person, it can be a biofield, it can be the electromagnetic fields. I always use the example of my brother-in-law. He gets his connection through riding his bike, like all the way from the West Coast to the East Coast, down to the South and back to the West Coast and up. So very different styles, but each of us gets there how we get there. And Reiki, again, Yusui Sensei was so specific in not creating Reiki as a religion. So going all the way back to the system and the historical basis of it, or the history of it, even though he practiced very spiritually, he actually was very specific about it not being a religion. And it is going to take you into your path, your way, and your belief system deeper in. So,
Yeah. There's no required religious belief system. And that's one of the coolest things about it, that we have people from all religions and non-religions that have a Reiki practice. And in a medical sense or scientific sense, it is regarded as a biofeedback therapy. And so a lot of people practice it simply in that way, especially in the medical and scientific communities. And the research that we have around it and things like that certainly um, look at it in a little bit of a different lens than that idea of what we think of as the spiritual lens with the angels or the spirit guides and things like that. And not to say there's not crossover with them, but generally speaking, that is a part of how it is um, thought about. So there you can have that all the way to we have people in all different religions that use Reiki and they combine it with their religions, from Eastern religions to Western religions. So there is a lot of openness to how Reiki works and how you can practice it. And I received this analogy about how, there's the different versions of, so it gave like the analogy of that there's a lot of different ways to cook, right? There's a lot of different types of cuisines, there's a lot of different ingredients, there's all of these different ways to cook the same thing, even like the same kind of dish, right? And so a lot of us are going to have different versions, we're going to have different preferences, we're going to have different things, maybe the ways that we learn to do it, that we prefer that, different ingredients, like all of these different things. But at the end of the day, what is still occurring is that we're still getting fed. And so that is a part of it. And like when Colleen and I teach our classes, we say, well, you may not like this ingredient, but why don't you try it once and see if you like it if you haven't ever tried it before. Like, see if you like it, because you might love it when we expand our viewpoints and try different cuisines from different places around the world, and um, things like that, there might be something that we end up really loving that we haven't tried before. And at the same time, you might try it and be like, ugh, I don't like that. I'm gonna do me here, and I'm gonna stick with my preferences. But at the end of the day, it's about how does it nourish all of us, right? And each of us are going to be nourished in our different ways. And so If you're not, go to what you're called to. Speaking of inner authority and inner truth, go to what you're called to. That's the most important thing. And it does not have to be what somebody else is called to.
Yeah. Yeah, that it's such a big one, and I think a lot of times there's a lot of unlearning to do. And I know for myself, also being raised Catholic, one of the very first things I did, well, the first thing I did, the very first journey I did with Jan Inglesmith teaching shamanic journeying was I journeyed to Jesus to find out if I was going to be in trouble for for doing this. And like, because my belief system at the time was, if I'm in trouble, I'm really in trouble. Like, it is bad stuff to end up in an eternity in hell. So and interestingly enough, I wasn't really even raised that way, but the culturally created self, the collective belief was enough to make me, like, really, like, I need to question this. And so then, of course, he was like, kind of chuckled at me, and he's like, no, I never said that. And so that started a whole new relationship. But I mean, both you and I talk all the time about how we didn't start out with these belief systems and question them. Like, I don't just believe everything or let anything in because suddenly it's a spirit. It's like, you should be skeptical and question this stuff. And, use discernment and conscious thought. I think, to me, Reiki at its core can really go to pure consciousness. And that's what Usui actually said at the time is, the distance symbol actually means the origin of all is pure consciousness. So here on the earth, we define that all different ways. And what does that mean? And so, really going into, I do believe in the energy of love in that consciousness. I do believe in the light and the heart and the purity of it and the wholeness of it. And so, my engagement with Reiki energy has those qualities, whether I'm in the universal fields with it, because that's the other thing is you can actually explore and, these different ideas and types of consciousness and decide, as Robin said, each one, you know, like, yeah, oh yeah, this one resonates. No, not so much. I have had lots of that. Lots of
Well,
them. Yeah.
that's why there's different when the student is ready, the teacher appears, right?
Yeah.
Because go to who you're called to. So I'm going to read the top comment because it
Okay.
is in line with what you said, Colleen. It's very short. Reiki is energy, not angels and guides. Ray equals universal. Ki equals life energy. I was like, there it is. So
There it is.
simple. That's why it's the top comment.
Yeah.
So, we're all going to be called to different ways because for other people, the angels and everything, it connects them, right? Like that's what I would say for me with it all actually too, is that it helped me to heal the religious wounding so that because I would say, like you said, like it's definitely one of those things that my belief system expanded through my practice. Um, and that it healed my religious wounding. So even though I may not be called to working with angels and things like that, I am able to really support people who do and have a lot of a different viewpoint of that. Or if they show up, I'm not so triggered by it too, which is so important because for some people, that is like the biggest connection to divinity that is there for them. Like there's that aspect of it too. From the other side of the viewpoint with it is like that is also either they always had that connection, and being able to experience that through Reiki energy is a deeper level of the connection, or because of some religious wounding, they might have turned away from the connection, and the reconnection to the angels and things like that is really helpful. So you kind of have both sides of it here, but none of that is dependent on the Reiki energy itself. Like, it is a vehicle to help us connect to what is best for us rather than, a one right way to it.
And it's trying to teach us that we don't have to have the one right way. That's, to me, one of the biggest healings that I've seen in myself and in others is we have such a really almost innate belief in, oh, we have to do it the one right way. And it's trying to heal that within us too, which is sometimes a process.
Sometimes.
Sometimes,
How
just
about
sometimes.
all the time? It's always a process. And I think really what it comes down to is like, regardless of, you know, I think I kind of lost where I was going with that, but I think really what it comes down to is what Reiki is here for us for is a path to wellness, whatever that looks like for us. So sometimes we are using it for pain reduction, stress reduction, that is getting us back to our wellness. And sometimes we have emotional or spiritual injuries that we're working with, and it is helping us get back to wellness, and however we are exploring it. And sometimes if we are, like, let's say, in this place where we are using it for pain reduction and stress reduction and things like that, when those cortisol levels are lower, when our nervous system is more balanced, we can then explore those, maybe those emotional or those spiritual aspects of wellness. So there's like a lot of, it's so multifaceted with that, that's such a big part of it. When we're less stressed, we can gravitate towards, you know, maybe less of a reaction and more kindness, things like that, that are also a part of the path of this, of Reiki or other spiritual modalities.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I think for the most part, what people are saying is that it's with these things is that it's really blending modalities, and that it's not a requirement, that, and maybe different belief systems. Okay, so I'm just going to close these windows.
Yeah, I mean, I certainly would never have known, with all the spiritual guides that I've met and worked with and been friends with and connected to over the years. I wouldn't even have known they exist, but I do like my expanded awareness. But I also think it's how I personally like relating to it, how it's resonant with me um, and matches my imagination.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. And the outcomes can be the same, even
Hmm.
though we get there differently.
Yeah.
None of it is a requirement.
Yeah.
It is how we're all called to it. Okay. Next one from 6 days ago. I feel lost on my Reiki journey. I received my Reiki 1 and 2 back in April of 2025, but I haven't fully kept up with it, and I feel lost on how I can connect again. I was very discouraged when I first started because I wasn't experiencing insight the way I thought I would. Um, I'm, I think this is supposed to say I'm a person where it takes time, but I'm impatient sometimes, and also went through a lot emotionally, mentally. So I just stopped completely. but something is telling me to get back into it and try again. I did have one experience where I saw glittery specks everywhere and loved it. I really want to experience this again and need and more, but I need the encouragement. I wanted to ask this one because it's such a common question and experience of there's two folds of a part of this where that are common experiences and questions. One of that is that I haven't been practicing. I got my attunements a while ago. Sometimes it's, I think this was last year. Sometimes it's 10 years ago. And I just kind of stopped practicing and fell out of it a little bit. So that's a common question, a common experience. And then the second aspect of this is wanting to experience those like psychic insights or impressions. And I experienced it once and I haven't gotten more and I would like to, or should I? Maybe that's a better way to say that. Should I be getting these experiences? So that's why I wanted to go with this question or discussion on Reddit.
All right. Um, well, the simplest answer and what is true is that you can simply activate Reiki now and it will respond to you. What I find in a simple answer like that is true is that it is a difficult one to believe. And so it goes back to what we were talking about earlier and some of the belief systems that we already have so deeply in place that we have to do all of the different things to earn it and deserve it and have the outcome. And if the outcome isn't what we expected it to be, then maybe we didn't do it right. And now how do I do it right? And now the energy is calling this person back to it. And it's really that connection of that inner calling saying, oh, come in and remember, come in and remember. Because of the attunement, Reiki will always come back and reply unless you choose for it not to, because Reiki won't impose itself on you. But if you have said yes to it and you have invited it, it will come back. That's one way. And you can allow it to come back and show you how it works for you, and also understand that what you have just gone through with it is part of the training it has with you. Like you'll look back in retrospect and remember, oh yeah, remember that year. I kind of just let it go because it didn't do what I thought it was going to do. And, now I'm discouraged. Maybe I didn't do it right. All of the things that can go with that. And everybody would have their own word they would put in there for it. And it's one of the hardest things to believe that Reiki does not require us to do all the things for it to meet us where we are right now. And we want to have all the time to, engage back and this person might really be getting called to spending more time with it. There's always, review your class is a good way to do that. Have sessions from somebody else, personal self Reiki. Join Reiki shares, like we have our distance Reiki share every Tuesday morning. And that's free and open to everyone. There's a lot of them. We have other colleagues that have Reiki shares that you can join. And that can activate it. But most of all, it's just saying yes to it. And the attunement, you've already said yes. So it doesn't have the, well, you didn't use me, so I'm not coming back, or you have to do all these things to earn it. However, a lot of times Your belief system can be that. And then also it's enjoyable to like review classes, to engage with community, to work with other people who are working with it, very definitely, and focus your attention on it. Of course, is going to give you a whole new experience of it that, is maybe what you are looking for. I think right now in the world today, many of us are really looking for community to connect with each other. And Reiki is one of the ways that you can do that in one of the communities. Reiki community globally is truly really supportive of one another. We can see, controversy, we can see disagreements or debates, but, Robyn and I are very engaged in the world stage, or not world stage, that's not accurate, more of the global community of Reiki. And I can tell you all around the world in the global community, people support one another with Reiki, and however Reiki can wake back up for you. So you listen to your guidance and, kind of start asking the question, let the curiosity come in. What do I want to do about this? How am I gonna re-engage with this and find out your way? Robyn, maybe you would talk too about the expectation. Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's with this is like, first of all, even people who are in this for their job, like this is our business as well. And so we're in Reiki and these things kind of all day, every day, right? And then we use them in our personal lives and we have our own personal practice that is a really big part of our life. And even in that, you're going to go through cycles where you're able to spend more time in it than other times. You're going to go through times where life is busy and things are happening and then you're going to go through times where you have a lot of time to focus on it. And so just trying to release this like self-judgment about like if I am not in my practice, then therefore, and that's kind of back to what you were saying, Colleen, if I'm not in this really dedicated practice all the time, then therefore I can't have it. Then I've got to just it's kind of all or nothing mindset that it's another part of unlearning of the all or nothing mindset. And just to know that it will cycle back around. It will cycle back around. So that's just the first thing that I'd add to that part. But then the second idea of the psychic impressions is I think that, what a lot of what we're seeing online is this kind of burgeoning aspect of Reiki of it has to go with psychic impressions. It doesn't. So that's the first thing that I would like to say, caveat with it of like, we don't have to have that be a part of our practice. We may not be interested in that as being the type of practice. And this is coming from somebody who does psychic impressions as a part of my practice. But I'm not saying that that's like the only way to practice Reiki. It's a way that I want to practice Reiki, that it is and it's combining multiple modalities. So there's that aspect. So, don't put shoulds on it that, oh, I should, or if I don't receive psychic or intuitive insights, that therefore I'm not doing it correctly. So the caveat with that part. Also, having said that, it could be interesting. Also, we see it happening, that it opens up that part of ourselves, like that our intuition comes back. Like we say commonly, Reiki 1, day 1, it starts to open that part for people, right? So we have it happen to ourselves. And so once that happens, we might want more of it, or we might want to learn more about it. We might have had gifts that we came into Reiki with, and like we already have that intuitive insights or, different gifts that we can come into Reiki with. But also know that those things you develop over time. You can receive training around it. That's why we started Next Step, right? Is because we see that people have it happen or that people want to develop it. And that was one of the things that was such a, and I know I say this all the time, but that was one of the things that was such a relief to me, because it was something that I had to like have a whole lot of unlearning and relearning around psychic or intuitive insight with Reiki sessions, is that it's a skill that you can develop. It's not something that it's like you're gifted at or you're not with it. And that Reiki supports that process. Like we teach it through the lens of Reiki energy. It's like what we use to be able to open that within us as a part of our sessions, those kinds of things. So if it's an interest to you, you absolutely can develop it. And then also, Reiki is not dependent on that to work. Reiki works regardless. And when we're doing this work, we are still channeling the Reiki energy, and the Reiki energy is doing the healing work. Like it's not, we're observing what it's doing, but it's not dependent on whether or not we know how to either do that or how to heal it, because the Reiki energy is doing the work. And so whether or not you either receive psychic impressions or intuitive insights, I put those in the same category. I know that technically they're probably different, but I might use those words interchangeably. Whether or not you receive them, have an interest in them, and or want to develop it, Reiki works regardless. And so you can know that also as a kind of second part of this question.
Well, and I would add to that too, that the other part of it is, it sounds like this person really actually does want to have intuitive insights, psychic impressions, and it is a skill. Some people are born with a gift, but I would say even then, there still is skill development. And the number one skill is learning how your intuition works. And, Robyn, you're actually a little bit better at explaining some of the clear senses, but having what clear sense are you working with and how Reiki is actually activating um, your particular intuitive style. And so I would say out of everybody, we have literally taught so many people about this, and I would say that is almost one of the number one reasons people struggle with being able to connect to that type of consciousness is understanding how it works for them, because everyone's intuition works differently.
Yeah. And those impressions, they come through differently for
Mhm.
each of them, each of us. So I'm going to read the top comment. Forget the result and the sensation. Stay in the moment. Just feel your hands, focus on your breath, and feel your feet. If we try too hard, we can become tight and less energy. And well, he said less energy flows. Um, the more you let go and the softer you are, the better the energy flows. You can use it as a meditation practice at the beginning, set a direction, and then let go. Reiki isn't about what you want. Your body, your soul, your higher self knows best what is important right now. Reiki isn't about feeding the ego. It's about letting go. Look at the Gakkai. The 5 precepts of Makao just for today is the first sentence, and the rest is built on this foundation. It is about the right now. There is a deeper meaning inside. Goes on a little bit more about some different things, but I think that was the kind of the important thing.
I love how the comments say it so succinctly.
Yeah.
Well, half an hour later,
10
and
minutes. Yeah.
then, they use
They
50 words.
probably wrote out their really long answer and then put it through chat, say, summarize this.
Yeah, there you go.
Although some people are beautiful writers and very succinct and don't need to put it into chat. You and I are very wordy, and then we eventually get to our point.
Yes.
It was beautiful. Yeah. And I think that the only thing that I would say to that comment, although I also very much agree with it, is that when we are tight, especially if we are working on other people, I don't necessarily think that the energy doesn't flow as well. I just think we don't have the experience of the energy flowing as well. Because I don't think that Reiki energy is dependent on what we are or aren't doing as a practitioner. This is my own personal belief system. I know that there's a lot of perspectives about that, this exact like conversation out there. So I certainly honor that other people have a different perspective of this. But for me, I do think when we're practicing on other people, I think that the energy flows to them regardless. And, through our own experiences, it's like we can be in mind chatter and the person on the table can have just this extraordinary experience. And so, therefore, like to me, it's like that shows that the energy is flowing as a practitioner, regardless of our experience. And so being tight, like I just think that those kinds of things are that the energy is going to do what it's going to do. I will say, and I know you have things to say about that, Colleen, but I just want to finish up from my perspective with this. I do think one part of that statement that I agree with is that sometimes when we're trying really hard to make it one way, that does create, when it's for ourselves, not for other people, but when it's for ourselves, especially if we're trying to, receive those insights, that it can tend to block us, or can, I think he used the word of restrict. And I think that it's like, and rather than just letting it be how it is for us in that moment, we're trying to make it different and how it quote unquote should be. And there, when we're trying to make it how we think it should be, because of our like culturally created ideas of how it should be, that can restrict us a little bit in our own practice. But as far as for other people, I think the Reiki is going to do what it's going to do.
Yeah, I agree with that. I feel like there's a theme here of, letting go of the, am I doing it right? Yeah, because it is, there's a lot of that is underneath, there's a thread underneath it of that old belief system of you have to do it right. And of course, we do have our techniques that we use and they work and, all of those things. So I'm not saying any of that, but yeah. Anyway,
Yep. All right. So I'm looking at a couple of options because I think we'll go ahead and do another one and then finish up.
okay.
All right. So I'm looking at a couple of options and I am going to let you choose which one that you want to do, because one of them, the comments get a little like spicy, not like romantic spicy. They get a little like people have a lot of opinions about it. So
Okay.
that's what I mean, by spicy. And then the other ones I think are kind of a little bit more along the other questions that we've answered. So this is the one that can get a little spicy. What's up with the hundreds of types of Reiki? And then we have a question about the experience with the DKM symbol, and a deep experience around what happened with there. And then the other one is my first Reiki experience practicing on somebody else, and the gist of it is when they finished up or they worked on a certain part, they got angry, upset, and sad.
The
And
practitioner got
the
angry, upset, and sad.
practitioner, yeah. So those are your choices.
Let's see.
Hundreds of lineages, DKM, or the experience of a practitioner.
Okay, let's do the hundreds of lineages.
All right.
And maybe even do some of the comments first and then I'll comment.
Uh,
Or the other way around. I'll do what you think.
okay.
Okay.
All right. What's up with the 100 types of Reiki? We're never spicy on this podcast, so we'll see what happens here. I mean, you and I aren't very spicy people in general. We don't carry a lot of uh, you know, these kinds of things that come in the comment. I didn't know there were hundreds of types of Reiki. I thought it's just Reiki, that's it. But recently I found out there are a ton of types, not just Usui Reiki. It's holy fire, angelic, kundalini, karuna, you name a mystical concept, and it most likely has its name plus Reiki attached to it. Emerald, sapphire, ruby, gold, sky, water, air, Reiki, everything at this point. Have you guys had any experience with these types? Are they even legit? What's the difference between these types and original one? How are they all Reiki? Do they use the same energy? Can anyone enlighten me about them? Do you want me to read comment?
Yeah, yes.
Okay. Okay. I'm actually glad you chose this because we were just talking about that this weekend, this in this weekend's class. And this is such a common conversation. So, the top comment: what's up is the business of selling Reiki courses, friend. Sui Reiki has everything we need. You can't get more powerful energy by making up new symbols and rituals, but you can sell more courses. Besides, Reiki is about a system of living, something the West seems happy to be relatively ignorant of. Oh, this is really common on Reddit, and I can't tell you the level of discourse that is happening in um this sub or in this post. So, yeah.
Well, being somewhat of a history buff
Yeah.
around Reiki, when you go to the historical basis of Reiki, it actually has always had differences. Usui practiced a style of Reiki, and Reiki was practiced even before him, and he developed his own lineage with his techniques, the way he practiced, the way he defined Reiki. He received Reiki to experience Anshin Jitsume, the experience of perfect peace, and he taught it that way. And so his techniques, because he received the energy before the technique, so he had to develop a variety of techniques in order to teach Reiki. And it was one of the really unique things that he did in order, that why we see Reiki is still here around the world today. And one of the unique differences that he did that was different in his day is he taught teachers. And he taught 21 teachers and then also taught teachers how to teach teachers is how it evolved over time. So then you look at Dr. Hayashi, and Dr. Hayashi created his own Reiki lineage because he had learned from Usui, but because of the conditions in Japan at the time and the way he was teaching Reiki, he developed new techniques and ways of practicing Reiki energy also. And there is some discussion today about which symbols did Usui actually work with, and then who brought in the next levels of symbols, Daikomyo being one of them, since that's here in the mix of the conversation. And then Mrs. Takata learned from Dr. Hayashi. And not only that, there were other Reiki teachers that Usui taught. That's just the lineage we've been working with, going back to Usui, Hayashi, Takata, and through the Reiki lineages that we're in, and that I've learned because I've studied a bunch of the different lineages. So I could go into the whole story about the history, but if you really go back and understand the history, it actually started that way. So Usui added the attunement to Reiki, and much of the history that's coming out now is where he also learned some of his spiritual information. He was in Taiwan, he was in San Francisco in the United States for a couple of years. So when you really look at the history and all of the different energies that and techniques that have been developed over time, it has always worked that way. So I think the biggest difference in the question is it all the same energy? Ultimately, yes. And then there are different pathways and connections to the energies that people feel and experience. And a lot of that is going to be based on where people live. So, for instance, how is someone in Europe experiencing it, Africa experiencing Reiki, and Asia experiencing Reiki? Because it really is global. And the global part of it was Yusui's intention. He was absolutely specific about spread Reiki in the world. And then he was the first one to start adding new things as he was training the people he was training, and specifically Dr. Hayashi, to move Reiki out of that, not to move it out of that spiritual practice, but Dr. Hayashi needed a more medical style of Reiki. And so Yusui actually worked with him to help him develop it. Hayashi helped Mrs. Takata develop her Reiki lineage because she needed it as a Japanese woman in Hawaii, during the years she was in Hawaii. And then after her from the West was the Reiki Alliance, the 22 students that she learned from Mrs. Takata. And then they had different lineages they developed, even though everybody thought they would teach the same way she taught. They each received some of their own guidance. So, for instance, one of the 22, Iris Ishikura, Mrs. Takata's cousin, decided she would charge a lesser fee for Reiki than Mrs. Takata charging the $10,000 for the Reiki Master course, and Iris Ishikura teaching it for $500 instead. So then you can go after that. Like I say, it's a whole story about the history, but the history of it is that it has always evolved, and people will be called to the energy that is a match for them.
Yeah, I'm just listening back. I'm like, well, we didn't read all the spicy comments. So it probably doesn't feel as spicy as it actually is in the thread. So
Oh yeah.
I'm gonna say that.
I know.
Probably
I was
people are
like, oh,
listening. It's
here
like,
it is.
well, that's pretty tame. And I'm like, well, it doesn't get so tame, but I had read the comments with it, and they
Yeah,
go back and forth. But folks, like, we gotta stop doing this to each other.
there you go.
I mean, and because you just see just people like it's scammy, it's a blah blah blah. People are just in it to make money and all this thing. First of all, like you said, there is a historical basis for charging money. Where did it come from that it always has to be free? Like, I don't know if you
There
know
is
that.
no, there is one place I can tell you that I'm aware of in the history. So Yusui started it with a business. He was specific about that. He was specific that he was not creating a spiritual, religious healing practice. He created it as a business. Hayashi had a business. Takata has a business. So it has always had that aspect to it. Um, there was one period that I have read about in Justin Stein's book, and that was when Dr. Hayashi traveled to Hawaii to teach with Mrs. Takata. And they traveled all around Hawaii and they taught a lot of students during that time. And because he was on a tourist visa, he was not allowed to charge money. That is the only place I have seen in the history. And to say that we do so much free Reiki.
Well,
I mean,
I
it's like
know it's so true,
if
but
you do
my point
Reiki,
is that
yeah,
even after that, she's charging $10,000
yeah,
back then,
yeah,
and like that's not a judgment. That's just saying, like, some of the biggest names in Reiki, in the history of Reiki, have charged money. So there's that part of it, which is kind of separate from where my point was going of like, I mean, why are we just fighting over this? I don't understand it, because none of us are out here like, I'm going to become a billionaire from, right, having a Reiki practice. Like, I mean, let's get real. Like, most of us are, that is not the Reiki industry.
No.
And we have had so many conversations with world leaders of the different Reiki lineages. And they are just, I'm not saying that doesn't exist from it exists everywhere, right? Like, I'm not saying the idea that people are doing it just to make money is not, there's not a person out there that's doing that, because like, but if you're doing those kinds of things just to make money, like, go into a different industry, because there's a lot of industries that you're going to make more money in. Like, let's be
There are
honest
places
here.
you can make more money. Yeah.
Huh?
Yes, there are many more places you can make more money if that's your goal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's just like, and we've had so many conversations with world leaders of different lineages, and it's like, I haven't seen one person, regardless of the things that they have that have come through with their different lineage and their different practices and techniques. I have not experienced or talked to one person that feels like they are in the space just to make money, regardless of the things that they create, the books that they sell, the lineages that they may have, and that is also because so many of these different people have different belief systems, different spiritual backgrounds. Like you said, the openness to the guidance that Reiki brings in, because that's was a part of the intention of this system, that it was meant to evolve. And if we only had one option, it wouldn't spread the way that it has spread. It wouldn't. And none of these people are like, or inauthentic, or seem like they're just into it to make money, and are only like coming out with these things because they're in it just to make money. No, they're coming out with these things because they have a multitude of just wisdom that has downloaded into them, that they need to express. Like, it's not even really a choice. Like, you have to, like, I have to put this into a book, or I have to do something with this guidance because it has changed my life, and I care that it changes other people's lives. And so it's like, I just, we see this all the time, right? About this, they're just in it to make money. And it's just like, I mean, you know, show me the first Reiki billionaire, and I'll maybe agree with you. But like, I've got better things to put my energy into, like, the actual billionaires that are not sharing their wealth. Like, like, if I'm going to criticize somebody, it's going to be in that pathway, not the pathway where people are genuinely trying to just share their wisdom, share this life-changing energy and the tools and techniques that helped them to come to this point of living their life from a conscious place, being kind to others, bringing light onto the planet, genuinely wanting to help. Like, that is really such a big heart intention of, I mean, I don't know, everybody that I've talked to with it. Like, yes, maybe I got into it for myself because I was going through really challenging things, and it called me and it helped me heal and it helped me do all of these things. But also, the hard intention is that, like, how can I help? How can I spread more Reiki to the world? How can I help people? And that is really such a big piece behind all of it. And so, like, I just can't buy into this idea that this is what people are out here to do. Like, we all have to, and like you said, people in different parts of the world have different spiritual belief systems. And so, yes, they're going to have the energy and then create tools and techniques that help them and their people relate to it all in their way. And I'm just not going to say that that's wrong because that's not the way that I practice. Somebody of a different religion is going to, or spiritual basis. So I'm not a religious person in the traditional sense, but somebody with a different spiritual basis is going to have to connect to it in a different way than I am. And I'm not going to be out here and say that that is wrong for creating that quote unquote like lineage, because the energy behind it is the same that I practice, that they practice, but I need to do certain things that are going to be different than how they need to do certain things. So that's my take. That's my two hot takes on it. That's my hot take on it.
Well, and like you say, we've had such a, you know, great opportunity through our podcast and all the different guests we've had from many of the world leaders, and they're just the nicest people.
They're so lovely. They're
They're
so
lovely.
lovely.
And
Yeah.
some of them that we've even been like, okay, this one, what's going to happen? And are they, you
We're going to
know,
have differences and opinions about things, you
yeah,
know?
thinking, and then we get in and everybody is just so really caring about just what everything Robin said. And yeah, we have to earn a living or I can't do what we do. It has to financially support us to spend our 8 hours a day every day and the passion that we have. And it has always been that way. Yusui Sensei worked with a very elite population of people in Japan when he developed it, which was another reason that it is thought that it made it because there was so many different things going on in Japan at the time that it adapted so that the energy could actually make it through to today. And now we're working with 21st century practices, and it's meant to evolve. It's meant to evolve.
Yeah.
So individually and collectively. I think the biggest thing that I hear in this, there's two things. One is better than.
Yeah.
So I think that that's the main thing to really understand. There are very few times or some of the people in practice that I hear them say theirs is better than. Mostly it's going to be this is how we do things. Here's the techniques we're using, because that's the whole thing. What are the techniques you're using to access the Reiki energy, receive the Reiki energy, and share it? What is the Reiki energy to you? And how do you work with it? Going back to our previous discussion. And then, so the hierarchy idea of it is one part of that. Um, totally forgot what I was going to say.
There was two parts of the things that you were going to say about the question that you hear underneath. Better than, and then there was going to be
Oh,
some.
and then opinions. Okay, so one of the articles I wrote years ago, because this was my personal thing, going back to the gossip that Robin was talking about, that time was when I was also really working on my opinions. And
Let me guess, you were closer to my age.
I was closer to your age. Yes, I was about your age, a
40,
little bit younger. I
about
mean, a
to
little
be
bit older, but
42.
yeah, those 40s, man.
Yeah.
Um, but that was when I really decided to study my opinions and ask Reiki. And it started with help me with my judgments. And then my judgment took me to, oh, check out my opinions to figure out my judgments. And man, that was a rough course of study. I did it finally, like a year and a half into it. I was like, I'm so beat up by opinions, my own and everybody else's. And that's when I was in a Reiki journey and asking for help, like, help me. I need help with healing these opinions and dealing with it. And that's when the gratitude ceremony came in.
Mm.
and it said gratitude is the solution. But back to the opinions, like where do those opinions even come from? And people need to question their opinions. That's my opinion, that
Yeah.
people need to question their opinions. But I did discover that, like, where did it come from? Question your opinions. Are you just tapping into a thought form that is out there and kind of a popular one to say and believe? And it's just simple, like, you don't have to think about it. It's just simple. Oh, I'm going to agree with that opinion. But have you really listened to yourself, and have you listened to where did the opinion come from? And is it actually yours? That was the big one. I found out so many of my opinions were not actually mine. Some of them came from my parents. Some of them came from where I live, my culturally created self, my gender, my age, all of those things. And when I really started to look, and that's the whole thing with all these comments, where does your opinion come from? And is it really authentic? Have you really listened to yourself to think? Like you say, we're really engaged in the Reiki community, and locally and nationally and internationally, and they're really it is a very service oriented business. We are all here because we care deeply. And yes, it does need to financially support us. And the way to do that in the 21st century is through business. And that's okay. It helps people.
Great.
Yeah.
And even those that need the hierarchy, you're
Yeah.
connecting in your way. That's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
And that's true too.
that's true.
Yeah.
So, well, I think that is a lovely note to leave it on. The not necessarily the thing, but what you were just saying. So I think unless there's one of those other stories that you really gotta, we
I
can,
do. It came
okay,
through.
which one?
I have to say it. Here's the note that it has made such a difference for me, is Paul Stamets, who is like really the leading world expert in mycology and mushrooms, mycologist. And he said that humanity exists today because of random acts of kindness, and that it is our number one trait. And he said, the number one trait of human beings is random acts of kindness, and it's why we exist today.
We are the result of the love of thousands.
Yes.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah. For me, that has really just brought me into like even kind of daydreaming about different random acts of kindness that I've experienced or I've done. And then it's made me notice them and just the small ones. What is that saying, the quote that you always say, Robin? I think it's from Lord of the Rings,
Oh,
the Gandalf.
it's Gandalf, yeah. And he said it's not the let me just look it up because that'll be
It's
better.
worth it. It's
It's
such a
worth
good.
it. Yeah, give me a second. Um,
I just, when I thought about the random acts of kindness and watching Paul Stamets say it, because I was watching him on YouTube and how he was saying it. And it was just, I think it was on Mayim Bialik's podcast. Yes, it was. It was on her podcast. And it was such a good one. And when he said that, it just dropped into me like, oh, that is where I am going to see us. There are so many random acts of kindness
mhm.
if we look at it
I
that
know
way.
I've said this recently, but one of the things that um, I get to luckily be a part of is I live in a smaller town and we have a Facebook community group. And,
Oh,
you
yeah.
know, there's discourse and rudeness on there, right? But what there is unskilled discourse. Let me rephrase that unskilled. People get upset at each other. But what there also is when push comes to shove, there is people helping people. And you can choose to look at the one, or you can choose to look at the kindness. So around Christmas time, people putting on their, like, I'm not going to, Christmas gifts, and people saying, like, what do you need? And recently, there's been a few people on there that it's like, I need food. And people are like, come to my pantry. I have all of this extra food. Come to my pantry. What do you need? And so you see it, like, I see it daily. I see my community members coming together and offering each other kindness when we have big storms here. And, like I don't know if it's last year or the year before, where we had this half of the town, literally, the southern half of the town was out of power for 2 weeks. The northern half of the town all had power. There was trees across, ice and trees, and it was a disaster here. And we're talking giant trees. We live in the Pacific Northwest. There's giant trees. And all you saw were people who were coming together to help each other. There wasn't even any of the negative things on there. There was just people like, what do you need? How can I help? I have a chainsaw. I have large equipment. I have a truck. Let me take this wood for you. People checking on their neighbors, especially the part of the town that was out of power. Making sure, like, people were coming together. And so you see, I'm fortunate enough that I'm able to see that literally on the daily basis, because if you don't have that, it can be hard to see from the news, from, the larger collective, because it's not necessarily like what is focused on and reported on and things like that. But part of being a part of the community, I literally see it every day.
Yeah, it's really true. And so that's part of it too, is I do use Reiki a lot to help me notice.
Yeah,
And
noticing.
I actually ask for that. I set that intention, help me notice these things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, the quote is, some believe it is only great power that can hold evil in check, but that is not what I have found. It is the small, everyday deeds of ordinary folk that keep the darkness at bay. Small acts of kindness and love. And there it is.
From two really powerful sources, Gandalf and Paul Stamets.
Wizards. Wizards each in their own right.
Yes,
Paul
oh, you're
Stamets.
so right.
Paul Stamets a bit of a wizard.
Yeah. Anyone interested in him, he is phenomenal to listen
I
to.
think a lot of people probably know who he is now at this point.
Probably.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
Fantastic fungi.
Yeah. Yeah. Watch it on Netflix.
Watch it on Netflix. Yep.
Yeah.
All right.
Well,
Well,
that's an even better note to leave it off on. I love it.
yeah,
Yeah.
love
So,
it.
okay, everybody. Well, thank you so much for listening to this. And we'll see how it goes. See what people think, and if we want more of it, or because it was kind of fun for us, I think it was it's fun to
Totally
do
fun.
things
I want to do
different.
it again.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, the creativity and all of that. So lots of love to you all. You can find us at reikilifestyle.com. We have classes every month, between all of the different Reiki classes and all the different things that we're doing. All right.
All right. Thank you, everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.